as and when. But despite of my other efforts, I could not start it in time. But still, I'm happy. This show is on. The participants are waiting. Dear participants, as it was made known to you, I'm asked to interact with you on the topic holistic and multidisciplinary approach to education. Due to the technical features, I cannot make use of this PPTs and all for some time. We can do that later. But as a conventional type of teacher, for me, talking to you orally and interacting with you directly is more comfortable and meaningful than just making the slideshows. So that please feel free to raise your objections or interactions or any comments without any hesitation, so that real education can happen only through discussion, interaction, and one-to-one contact. Keeping that in mind, I'm sure all the participants are from different disciplines of higher education, working in different colleges and universities. And after the introduction of NEP 2020, quite a number of times there were discussions on holistic and multidisciplinary approach to education in general and also towards the higher education in particular. Being the part of higher education, we have been experiencing the need for some changes, some modifications into the existing mode of delivery that we are all doing in making the responsible citizens of the country. On that score, the concept of multidisciplinary and holistic education comes into picture. At the first instance, let us make an attempt to understand what is this holistic education is all about, why we need to think about holistic education. Education is actually a process of channelizing and unveiling the world before the learner. It's an act of disseminating knowledge to enhance the capability of an individual to rise to the occasion to solve the problems around him at any time. On that score, we are all into education system and we are offering different programs just to make it convenient for us, and we have categorized the gamut of knowledge into different disciplines like art, science, commerce, law, education, medicine, engineering, things like that. But we are into the field of creating, disseminating, sharing, and enhancing knowledge. Therefore, in order to make knowledge to reach people for the convenience of making use of this for the development of individual and the community at large, we need to upgrade ourselves. We need to change ourselves from time to time. On that score, let us make an attempt to interact and think about the concept of discussion today, that is holistic education. What does holistic mean? Here, the word holistic stands for totality. In toto, what we are looking at the education rather than looking at the component by component approach to education. What does in toto education is all about? Education is not just concerned with preparing people as literates. It is not just an act of reading and writing and making people to know about a field of their interest, about a profession or things like that. It is to make them to be competent, capable of addressing the problems around them. Therefore, education has undergone tremendous changes over a period of time due to the innovations and the knowledge explosion happened around us. As a matter of fact, today there are n number of courses to prepare people for the n number of professions which we have created in the civilized society. But however, educated people are, ultimately it is reflected in their interaction with the society, interaction with the community, and their ability to handle the crisis and solving the problems that they face in real life situation. For that reason, we need to look at education as a total approach or a philosophy to develop an individual's overall or holistic personality. To develop an individual's personality, we need to focus on a number of things. But at this point of time, before we get into a serious discussion on this, you will be knowing education is made up of basically three components. These three components includes knowledge, attitude, and the skill. Whatever the course that we teach and whatever the subject that we focus, ultimately we get into purposefully, intentionally deliver these three things to the intended student. At the first instance, knowledge. Knowledge is the information that is relevant for an individual at a given point of time or situation about the happenings around it. In other words, we can call it awareness of the reality of the world around you. The world is very vast and the knowledge is everywhere, but we need to know what knowledge is relevant for me and what knowledge is to be presented in what form to ourselves and to the students. Therefore, at the first instance, knowledge is the most prominent thing that is to be delivered to the people. Knowledge can be related to anything. It can be related to the world at large. It is related to the economy, the society, the technological advancement, the profession that we are doing, our individual himself, or the happenings around us that need to be updated all the time. Education is to make the people to aware of the world. In the beginning, I said education is an act of unveiling, uncovering the world before an individual. Knowledge is the most meaningful power today. It is Swami Vivekananda who said, knowledge is power, and knowledge can transform anything. Knowledge can change the world. Knowledge is so powerful that with the help of knowledge, we can make anything under the sun. That could be a reason for Mahatma Gandhiji to say that knowledge is the most powerful means of social transformation. Therefore, I and you being the workers in the field of knowledge, we need to understand the significance of knowledge in transforming the world. The transformation of the world can happen only through educated people. And in my opinion, education does not simply means making people to be able to read and write, or just making people to acquire the degrees or the diploma certificates, etc. It is to make them meaningfully knowledgeable people. That is the objective of education. Along with this knowledge, the other important thing that must be dispensed through education is the formation of attitude. I can understand, I'm not showing any slides to you. You are listening to me, because attitude is mental predisposition of an individual that makes him to be get ready or intended to react to a situation in a particular way. It is the apathy. It is the apathy of an individual towards something. It is the opinion that has already formed in the minds of individuals about something. Therefore, when we speak about education, along with the knowledge, our job is to develop and to make people to have appropriate preparedness towards their life. Therefore, attitudes are the mental disposition, predispositions. From where this attitude comes? Again, I have to go back to tell you, attitudes are made up of three different components. These three components are cognitive component, affective component, and the action component. Cognitive component means it is the mental preparedness. In other words, it is what the people know about anything. People's attitude towards something makes them to develop either a positive attitude or a negative attitude. What type of knowledge is given to people, what type of information is given to people, that makes them to be either accept or reject something. Therefore, education includes three things. I'm repeating as I'm talking to the screen, not looking at anybody's face or any facial reactions or something like that. For a teacher, what is very important is the reactions of the student. We can read the things through their faces and the eye movements, but I have no option here than talking on my own, alone, sitting in front of the screen. Attitude is what makes people to be readily accept or reject something. Attitude can be positive or negative, favorable or unfavorable. It is the attitude that influences our actions and reactions. There must be a proper type of attitude in the minds of people. Attitude can be related to the world. Attitude may be related to life. Attitude may be related to the individual himself. Attitude may be related to the society. Attitude may be related to the wealth, education, job, quality. It can be anything. Therefore, attitudes can be either positive or negative towards any object, any individual, any event, or anything around us. The purpose of education is to make people to have right type of attitudes. You can ask me a question, what is right type of attitude? There is nothing like right and wrong. They are all subjective. As Shakespeare once said, there is nothing like good and bad in this world. It is what the mind makes. What the mind makes depends on what the mind knows. Therefore, attitudes are made up of three different types of elements. The first element is the cognitive element, that is the knowledge. What people know about. Say, for instance, the present day students and their attitude towards knowledge, their attitude towards degrees, their attitude towards future, their attitude towards nation building, patriotism, their attitude towards a profession, their attitude towards life, their attitude towards government, their attitude towards politics, their attitude towards their voting power. These things are influenced by their education, and their education partly includes their knowledge, their awareness. What do they know? It is not everything. If we say that I'm teaching my subject very effectively, as a teacher of English, I'm teaching literature, I'm teaching whatever the syllabi given to me. As a teacher of mathematics, I'm doing my job. As a teacher of commerce, I'm teaching all accounting, statistics, taxation related tools. In addition to that, we need to make them an holistic, totally acceptable, responsible personality. How can we do that? For that reason, I'm starting with education. Education is to impart knowledge at the first instance, followed by that attitude. Attitudes are to be formulated. That's the reason I'm telling you, the first component of the attitude is knowledge, and the second one is the affective component. Affective component means emotions. Right type of emotions. It's not that easy to say what are emotions. Emotions are the consequences of the psychological episodes an individual might have experienced throughout his life that makes him to develop the different type of emotions. Emotions includes a number of issues like love, hatredness, friendship, enmity, relationship, joy, sorrow. All these things comes under emotions. How a person thinks about anything. When it comes to money, what is the knowledge of a person about money? and what is its emotion towards money. When it comes to a book, what is the knowledge about that person about books and what is his emotion towards the books depends on the psychological episodes, psychological experiences that an individual might have undergone throughout his life. As such, this is called the affective component. Affective component is one, how does it make the person to feel? Does it make him happy? Does it make him unhappy? Does it gives him satisfaction or dissatisfaction? What he feels. Along with this attitude, the third component that is very significant to make education complete is the skills. Skills are the ability of an individual to make use of his knowledge to a particular work or a task or the completion of an assignment. In order to do a job, how confidently he can make use of the knowledge he knows into action. It is the ability of an individual to use the tools, to use the gadgets. Say, for instance, my ability to make use of this IT facility for interacting with you. I called for the help of so many people, and ultimately I'm doing it without complete infrastructure for reaching out to you people. Despite of that, skill makes an individual competent to rise to the occasion and make use of his knowledge to solve a problem, to rise to the occasion. There are n number of skills, needless to elaborate at this point of time. You'll be knowing, we speak in terms of life skills, business skills. We speak in some terms of communication skills, conflict resolution skills. A skill without education without skill is simply preparing people with theoretical, conceptual understanding where they may not be able to use it for any purpose. Therefore, at the first instance, education must have all these three things along with the degree or anything that we are doing. That is, education includes knowledge, attitude, and the skills. Incidentally, we are talking about the holistic education. What is this holistic education is all about? Holistic education is a philosophy based on the premise that each person finds identity, meaning, and purpose in life, in his life, by connecting himself into the community and the natural world. In order to achieve this, he has to inculcate certain spiritual values like compassion, peace, understanding. As such, it is a process. Holistic education is a process of education wherein the individual himself establishes connectivity with the community, connectivity with the nature, and develop a sort of spiritual approach, holistic approach towards life. What is this spiritual and holistic approach to life? Education is to prepare a complete man. How can we understand this? As I'm talking in a very scattered way. Education is to make a person intelligent enough to handle the crisis on his own, make a person to develop relationship and maintain that relationship for a longer period, and to achieve the livelihood without affecting anybody. Whenever I speak about education, normally I recall a very popular letter written by Abraham Lincoln to the teachers of America. I'm sure at least some of you might have heard and listened to this Abraham Lincoln's letter to the teachers of America and American University. He said, don't make my son a new face in the crowd. Don't make my son a new face in the crowd. Teach him differently. How you can make my son different? If it is possible, make my son to rise above the feelings of victory and defeat. Tell him not to be ashamed of the fear that falls on losing something. If it is possible, teach him to smile at the time of misery. Teach him that $1 earned by hard work is more than $1 million. Teach him to have pride in his own deeds, even if the whole world is mad. To have pride in his own deeds,
5 ಗಂಟೆಗೆ ಬರಕ್ಕಾಗತ್ತ
whole world calls him mad. Then only he will accept Look ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಮಾಡಿ
Please, iPhone, mute it, please.
I was talking about Abraham Lincoln's letter to the teaching community. He said, don't make my son move face in the crowd. Already there are young number of graduates. We are not graduates producing factories. Colleges are not factories producing graduates. We have a responsibility. What is the responsibility? That responsibility is to make a total holistic person with a different and unique characters. You will be knowing each one of us are different. We are all different because of our ability to respond to the situation. Our ability to respond to the situation comes out of our learning. Say for instance, at the time of misery, how do you respond? At the time of defeat, how do you respond? At the right time of joy, success, how do you react to the world? And how are you get connected with other members of the community and the nature? Today, no doubt, we are producing students who are scoring very high marks in the examination. Students who are coming out with flying colors in the competitive examinations and getting into different type of jobs. That is not everything. The real purpose of education is to develop with unique characters that makes him to understand the world at large.
iPhone, please mute it.
ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ನಾವು ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೈನ್ಸ್ ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಓಕೆ, ನಾನು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ, ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕನ್ನಡ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅನ್ಕೋತೀನಿ. ಹೈಯರ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಯಾವಾಗ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಇನ್ಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರಿಂಗ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ just for passing the examination and getting marks, we must concentrate on their total personality. Personality varies from individual to individual. Every one of us are unique and special because of our ability to respond to different situations. The way in which we respond to difficult situations, the way in which we respond to conflicting opinions when it is presented before us by others, when there is
Sir, voice ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಆನಂದ್ ಸರ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಸರ್, ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್.
ಸರ್ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ತಮ್ಮದು.
ಆನಂದ್ ಸರ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಸರ್.
ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ. ಸರ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಸರ್. ಆನಂದ್ ಸರ್
ಆನಂದ್ ಸರ್
ಎಸ್, ತುಂಬಾ ಹೊತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಇದು?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ ಈಗ
ಸರ್
just-
ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ತಮ್ಮ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ?
ಹಾ ಸರ್
ಇವಾಗ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿದೆ ಸರ್,
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ವಾ? ನಾನು
ಇವಾಗ ಆಡಿಯಬಲ್.
ಈಗ ಆಡಿಯಬಲ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ನಾನೊಂದು 10 ನಿಮಿಷ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೀಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊತೀನಿ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೂ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್. ನಾನು ಹೋಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಹೋಲಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಯ ಸರ್ವತೋಮುಖವಾದಂತ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಪರ್ಸನಾಲಿಟಿ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ ಬೈ ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್. ಕಾಂಪೋನೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಅನ್ನುವಾಗ we know that knowledge, attitude, and the skills are the 3 components of education. Instead of focusing only on knowledge, we need to look at all the 3 elements of education, that is giving equal importance for knowledge, attitude formation, and then the skill part of it. How it can happen? Holistic education can happen through a different approach to education. Approach to education, we need to remember education depends upon 3 things. One is the teacher and the student's relationship. Next one is the content that we are teaching. Content, adana syllabus something. We speak in terms of the syllabus. And the third one is the pedagogy, teaching methodology. Unless we make changes in all these 3, holistic development or real education will not happen. At the first instance, let us look at the teacher-student relationship. Teacher-student relationship need to be a one-to-one or personalized one, because unless there is a personal touch in the communication that we are making, communication will never become effective. I was telling that in a classroom, when I interact with the audience or the students for that matter, their face is the index to me to understand whether I am reaching them, whether my approach is right or wrong. But here, when there is no scope for one-to-one, eye-to-eye contact, communication will become ineffective. As a result of that, we need to establish a rapport with the students. First, we must establish credibility with the student, win their loyalty, make them to believe us, make them to listen to us, make them to look at us. This can happen only when a teacher makes a sincere attempt to reach out to the students, and students also comes with learning motivation. They should also come with a learning motivation. Unless they are willing, you cannot make them to learn at all. Ultimately, you can recall the motivation theories beginning sentence. You can take an horse to the water. Unless the horse drinks, nobody can help it. Therefore, first thing is to establish a personal rapport and contact with the students and the teacher. Develop a positive relationship between the students and the teacher is the basic requirement of holistic education. Followed by that, the content of the subject that we are teaching need to be improvised depending upon the changes happening around us. Whether you are teaching science, arts, commerce, any discipline for that matter, that must be updated, because knowledge is something that never remains static. Knowledge is the most dynamic force. Remember the statement, today's imagination will become tomorrow's facts, and tomorrow's facts will become day after tomorrow's history. Unless we change ourselves, unless we update ourselves, unless we make improvement in everything that we are knowing and doing, we will become outdated soon in the field of knowledge. Many a time people think teaching is easy. Teaching is easy when you repeat the same thing again and again. Remember me, if you repeat the same thing again and again, your own students will become your enemies. Your own followers will become your critics. Nobody will love to listen anything more than twice. The third time and the fourth time, it will become a punishment, it will become an harassment, and then people will object to this. Otherwise, they will withdraw from the scene. You will be knowing something called the students' mentality is that in the beginning of any lecture, within 5 to 10 minutes, they decide whether it is worth listening or not. As a result of that, the teacher need to be all the time interesting, all the time able to motivate the students, all the time capable of holding their attention. That is possible only when students think something new is coming, there is something value addition. Otherwise, nobody will take the teacher seriously. Therefore, the first thing is the content need to be updated. Don't depend heavily on the syllabus given to you in the printed form. Think on your own about the latest developments, get it from all the possible sources, try to make the students that this is not everything, there is something more to learn from my teacher. Unless the student thinks that everything is not available on the Google, everything is not available on the books that is given to them, they will not listen to the teachers seriously. Therefore, content is another important thing that we need to concentrate when we speak about holistic education. Followed by that, the third thing is the pedagogy, methodology. Methodology today, we are all talking in terms of hybrid mode of delivery, both offline and online classes. For making online classes more effective, we need high quality equipments and the skill to handle these equipments, along with some preparedness for both the speaker and the listener to concentrate on the interaction. Otherwise, online classes will become just nominal and we do it for the sake of doing it. That should not happen. Whether it is online or offline, let there be scope for personalized approach to reach out to the students. Personalized. Every individual is different. In a class of 50 or 100 students, each student is specific and special. Somebody may be a fast learner, somebody may be a slow learner, and someone may be no learner at all. You may not learn despite of any efforts from your side. Under such circumstances, you need to devise a strategy